For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in on your favorite podcast app. I'm going to give you the email address right now because once I start going this week, I know that I'm going to forget to tell you, or I'm going to run out of time. Email me live@jbonair.com because we're unpacking what the hell was going on this week, because there is so much that took place. The police in Minneapolis, that's the big story there. Trump taking on Twitter, Jimmy Fallon taking heat for blackface 20 years ago, and then this YouTube couple that adopted a child and then rehomed him as though this was a pet that they just didn't like anymore and wanted to get rid of. Not to say that that's the right thing to do with an animal either, but with a child no less. So there is so much to go on about. So again, the email address live@jbonair.com. And also, if there is time later in the show, I'm going to talk about feelings of getting old, because I do seem like a crotchety old man with the rants that I'm going to go on today, but there's also just some stories in my own personal life that I'm going to share when we get around to it. That's coming up this week on The Scribble, and it starts right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. We go now to Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is not too far from where I am right now, actually. I'm in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, in case you're not familiar with Manitoba. And, we're about an hour plane ride, an hour flight from Minneapolis. And so I've been to the city, and it's actually, people drive there from here all the time. Not now, thanks to the coronavirus shutdowns, but certainly, the city has been in the news, of course, with the death of George Floyd. Now, I'm not here to give you the whole news story. You know what happened, right? His neck was being knelt on by a cop. He later died. Now, in true American style, it's this whole race debate thing. Now, here's the deal. I'm not taking sides on any of the angles here, okay? What the police did, wrong. Absolutely. Secondly, did this guy break the law? He allegedly was passing, a fake $20 bill or something. Again, if he's breaking the law, that's wrong. Did he deserve to die? Before you jump on me, maybe I shouldn't have given you the email address so soon. I should have put all my points out there. And then, should he have died for this alleged crime? No, of course not. All right, I'm not a heartless dick. All right, but I do like to sort of play all sides of this one. So, the one thing that I can't stand nowadays is somebody jumping to conclusions that I'm a victim because it's this. And I think I've told this story on the show before. That I used to work with a graphic designer. She was a Filipino, a lesbian. And one of our other graphic designers at this publishing company that I was at, she always said that he picked on her because she's gay. Well, here's the deal. Your host here, JB, a homo, a fag, a poof, whatever you want to call me. I liked that guy, Andy, who was apparently some big homophobe, always picking on this poor gal. So that's where I quickly saw, wait a second, you can play the victim card here just because right? Just you got to find something for this woe is me factor. Now, again, I'm not comparing that to what happened here, but we are seeing this a lot, that very quickly people are jumping to conclusions that it's race. This happened to him because he's black. Now, again, that might very well be the case. Let's let the investigation, let's let things play out before we jump to conclusions on things, okay? Now, I'm certainly not defending the officer's actions, and I'm not saying that racism does not exist or even play a part in policing, because, it happens everywhere, okay? I'm not saying that this was not racism, but I'm also saying that we don't know this was racism until, the facts fall into place and the investigation is completed. Now, again, on what day? It was Thursday, I guess, is when you have the state attorney or whatever they're called come out and say, well, we need more video. We need more. If you've got video, send them to us. We want to see more. We need to. Now, I did tweet on Thursday afternoon saying, that sounds morbid. You need one angle to see that this guy is being tortured, essentially, and then subsequently died. Why do you need more angles? So people are saying that it was just to buy time. These officers aren't going to face charges for murder, blah, 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 blah. So I also don't understand why not much came of that press conference. And me being a member of the media as a newspaper columnist and broadcaster, I always pick apart press conferences now because I sort of wonder, you're not answering the question, so I'm going to ask it again, and then I'm going to ask it again, and I hope my colleagues will back me up and ask it again because we're not getting anywhere. We're just sort of spinning our wheels. And that was kind of what happened at the press conference. Not only was it almost 2 hours late, so naturally reporters are thinking, oh, there's going to be some big news. Maybe charges are being laid. Maybe there's arrests happening right now. Okay, maybe that's why there's a delay. And you could genuinely hear the reporters pissed off that it was like, so really nothing new came of this. Like, why did we come here? What was the point of this conference? And so now, of course, there's going to be complaints that, it's the police covering for each other and da-da-da. Now the attorney is, in touch with the White House and talking to Donald Trump, the guy who said that he could shoot somebody and get away with it. So that's exactly who the police would want on their side, of course, right? To cover up any wrongdoing. But yeah, I don't appreciate the fact that people jump to conclusions that I was arrested because of this. I was pulled over because of this. And of course, we did see that woman earlier in the week with the dog in Central Park making the police phone call saying that I'm being harassed or whatever by a black man. So that's clearly evident there. You can't deny it. Then she's saying it, right? And it just looks bad. So, it would be no different if something happened at my house and suddenly, I don't like what the police did, and I just go and say, well, it's, they're homophobic. It's because I'm gay. Until you know that for sure, that's a very dangerous claim to make. And again, so the investigation continues. Again, I'm not taking the side of police. Obviously, it was very tragic that this man died. I'm certainly not saying that. I'm not saying that he was right to do what he did, allegedly, or that he was wrong. I'm just saying, let's wait until things play out. Because, as we've seen, moving on to our next story here, is that Minneapolis is burning. Minneapolis is on fire. And I don't understand things like this. Because you can have your rage, you can have your protest, you can say that you're fed up. And when you think about it in this instance, you're outraged about unnecessary violence. Let's take a look at what's happening here. You got hooligans, hoodlums, goons running all over town, smashing into things, stealing, lighting fires, basically watching your own town burn. That doesn't make sense to me. So think about it this way. You can be pissed off with your elected officials, with your law enforcement, with your everything. At the end of the day, in a roundabout way, you're going to be paying for all this destruction. You realize that, don't you? Because what's going to happen is you smash through into Target, you steal all the stuff, and you run out. You smash through Walgreens, CVS, Walmart, whatever it is, you take what you want, but guess what's going to happen is that now the store is going to have an insurance claim. So potentially costs are going to go up, because they are going to have to, either pay for damages, they're going to have to hire security, they're going to have to do something to offset the cost. Maybe they're going to be closed for a few days, so they're going to lose revenue on that. And then if it's city property that you're destroying, you know, a cop car, whatever it is, well, guess who pays for that anyway? Guess where that money comes from, taxpayers? It's you. It's you. So you can run wild in the street like a bunch of jackals, yokels, animals, whatever word. But you're only punishing your own community here. Let's stop and think about this for a second, everybody, okay? That'd be like saying, I don't know, that I love my gas-guzzling vehicle. There's no way in hell you're going to take it away from me. I love my car. And then I go and purposely drive it into a tree. Like, okay. So I'm standing up for gas-guzzling vehicles, and then I just go and destroy my own. Like, do you see what I'm saying here? So protesters, this is where, again, like I said at the top, Winnipeg is so close to Minneapolis, but so far. You guys, I don't know. And I've never understood the whole thing about like destroying something or smashing something to get your rage out. I wrote a column about that several years ago. It's beyond me why you would go, I'm going to go and just smash some windows because I can. Okay, yeah, you're a big man. You're a hero. Keep going. So in the end, yeah, I mean, it's basically going to come back and bite you in the ass. It's going to cost you one way or the other. So there you have that. So that's what's going down in Minneapolis. The rioting is pretty ridiculous. And this is the thing, too. Social distancing, everybody. Remember, so if you're going to go and firebomb Target, remember to have your face mask on because the coronavirus is real. Let's be honest. This is where sarcasm kicks in. Of course, I'm not condoning looting. Don't send me emails about that. I'm trying to point out how ridiculous you people are in Minneapolis that are doing this. And I realize it's not the entire city. Let's be clear on that. It's not everybody, right? But certainly it's those people who have put the city on the map in part 2 of the story with poor George Floyd, who passed away. Yeah, what a tragic story. But Minneapolis, you're not making yourselves look any better after what we've seen play out live on television. All right. Elsewhere in the world this week, am I going to keep going or we got a break? I'm going to keep going. All right. Well, Jimmy Fallon, a 20-year-old clip from SNL resurfaced where Fallon does what seems to be entertaining imitation, and people found it to be offensive. And the hashtag Jimmy Fallon is over party was trending because, again, 20 years later, this clip from SNL. So as I talked about on my show, Entertainment Wrap-Up, Fallon did apologize, saying that it was, poor judgment, I should have done it. Thanks for pointing this out to me. It was wrong, should never have happened. But at the end of the day, Fallon doesn't control SNL. Fallon might have just been the actor, and might have been his sketch that he wrote, but he's not the one who gives the thumbs up or thumbs down to what airs on that show. This would be on Lorne Michaels or other producers of the show. You might be a head writer, you might be a whatever, you might be part of the cast, but at the end of the day, NBC executives, somewhere along the line, whether it was in the standards and practices people, those are the ones who, review things and make sure that it's okay. Lorne Michaels, fellow Canadian, but why is Fallon taking the hit for that? And so it's another example of cancel culture where something can come back to bite you. Again, 20 years later. 20 years later, it makes everybody sit there and go, huh. Again, I wrote another column about this where, I must have sinned when I was 21 years old. I'm going to confess this now, and again, I've told it on the show. I worked at Party City, and our boss, I was an assistant manager, our boss had a birthday, and so we brought in Zorro. Not a stripper, not, just a character to embarrass the hell out of her. And we had these tiny little balloons. Again, I'm working at Party City. And she always joked that she was flat-chested. She joked about it. And so we had these little balloons blown up all over the office. And she went and put them in her shirt and gave her, fake boobs, like people do balloons, right? And we have a picture of me. I have a picture of me grabbing these balloons. And so I'm waiting. Now, I'm fully admitting it. We've never posted the picture anywhere. And it was actually taken with my camera, so I'm the only one who has it. And I'm certainly not high profile like Jimmy Fallon. I'm not saying that I've got celebrity status like that. Nevertheless, so what? Now you're going to call up the newspapers that I write for and say that I should be fired, and you're going to go and try to destroy my radio shows and my company and whatever? People, let's give it a rest. Here's the thing, is that we'll never get beyond the whole racial disparity, racism, whatever, if we keep rehashing these things. Now, there's the saying, forgive and forget. I'm certainly not saying to forget about what happened in the past. We know that there have been injustices in so many different generations, demographics, cultures, races, religions, whatever. I'm not denying any of that. Hello, fag here, okay? But to a point, you have to move forward. And if we just keep going back, we went back 20 years with Jimmy Fallon, saying Jimmy Fallon is over party, meaning canceled, he's done, fire him from NBC, ruin his life, ruin his career, destroy his family. That's really going to be helpful in the world? Let's think about this for a second, everybody, okay? I don't know. That's where we're sort of treading the line, I would say. So, again, just on those stories alone, the Minneapolis story and then the Fallon story, send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. Trump takes on Twitter, and a YouTuber rehomes her child. More on the Scribble right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. Continuing on with the, can I be blunt? The shit show of the week that was, because there's just been some ridiculous stories, everybody, and it's got to make you think, what is happening in this world? Because I don't even know. Anyway. So the latest Trump battle is him taking on Twitter. You've heard about this executive order that he signed Thursday afternoon. Thursday was a very busy news day, come to think of it. And Twitter used to be like his bread and butter. That was his bud. They were inseparable. He paid more attention to Twitter than his own child. I mean, how do you turn your back on that? And so Trump is taking issue with being censored and freedom of speech being stifled, which is certainly not the case. But this all came about after sort of a disclaimer or fine print to two of Trump's tweets. Trump is claiming that mail-in ballots during an election are ripe with fraud, and he just doesn't want that. And he feels that Republicans will never have another president in office if mail-in ballots are allowed. And it's been noted over and over again on shows like Morning Joe and on networks like CNN that Trump himself uses mail-in ballots in Florida. So, Trump took on Twitter, saying, that it's basically the social media companies and platforms have too much power, that they are suddenly influencing elections. It's interesting that Twitter just days ago implemented these, sort of warnings or disclaimers to his tweets, but yet Russia meddled in the election how many years ago, and he still hasn't cracked down on that. But Twitter of all things, is now working against Trump. Now, the executive order is going to, again, is it a threat? Is it a promise? Is it intimidation? Is it bullying? Does he need to be best, Melania? Does he need to be best? I don't quite understand this, because I think people have this sense of entitlement when it comes to a social media platform. I've seen many people get blocked on Facebook for something that they posted, whether it was a photo or something hateful or whatever it is, and ditto for on Twitter. And it's almost like they have this countdown clock, because it's like, I've been blocked for 7 days, and you just know the person is itching to get back on there. And then once they're set free, once they're set loose from Facebook jail, it's called, that they just rail and thrash Facebook. So here's the deal. You don't have to be allowed on Facebook. This is a website that is available to everybody, but you don't have a right to be on it. They don't have to allow you to use their platform. This is a website. This is a website. They can say no thanks to you. Just no different than the sign on the store that says no shirt, no shoes, no service. They can refuse you as a customer. So for people to feel like they have, it's my right to be on Facebook, think about it. Facebook has turned into this massive behemoth in society when it's really just a website for people to post shit on it. Okay, so let's say Facebook. Is this the end of the world? Are you going to go? Is your life over? Are you devastated? Or do you know? Are you going to be able to pick up the pieces and move on with your life if Facebook suddenly says you're no longer allowed here ever for good, period, end of story? I should hope not. And if you are, seek help, because that is incredibly sad. But at the same time, if a business has done you wrong, there are a couple things you can do. We've talked about protesting earlier, right? There's a couple things that you can do, though. You can boycott. You can call for a boycott. Absolutely. Let your voice be heard and call for a boycott. But when you rely so heavily on the platform, it's kind of hard to take you seriously on your soapbox on the platform that you're complaining about on the platform. See where I'm going here? You're complaining about Twitter on Twitter from your Twitter account and threatening to shut down Twitter. Well, okay. Now, in Twitter's defense, they've previously said that, world leaders are sort of held to a different kind of standard. You don't want to be censoring them. They have a point. But then here's, Trump's tweets that are factually wrong, incorrect. They're hateful. They're threatening. They're intimidating. All these things that Trump posts on his Twitter account. They now slowly step in and say, well, this is a starting point. We're going to fact check things. Well, for the amount of tweets that go out every day from every single person in the world, it's irresponsible to say that you're going to be able to fact check everybody everywhere. Is it a start? Sure. Does Trump have the power to shut down Twitter? Apparently not. Again, I'm Canadian, thankfully, knock wood, that my government doesn't get all messy like this. But this is just somebody who's trying to flex muscle that doesn't clearly have muscle, especially if you've seen him on the golf course.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Jeremy Bradley back here on the Scribble. Moving on to what else was going on this week. There's a YouTube couple that adopted an autistic child from China, and it was 3 years ago and now they're giving him up. They've sent him to another home. Mika Stauffer and her husband James confessed to their over 700,000 subscribers on YouTube that they were not aware of the level of medical attention needed for their son, and so they've placed him in a new, quote, forever home. In a video clip, they say this is by far the hardest video James and I ever publicly had to make. There's not an ounce of our body that doesn't love Huxley with all of our being. Now, this family has basically documented the child's life since they took him in. And they've talked about the struggles of raising a child who's got, who's challenged, let's say. And that's, this couple was sort of adored and considered heroes. And, everybody was just fell in love with them. And they've had over 5.5 million views, welcoming people into their lives to document all of this. And so now suddenly, after 3 years, they've gone and said, not for us anymore. Here's the deal. They turned this adoption and raising a child essentially into a business. As many social media folks, YouTubers, Instagrammers, whatever, they started doing sponsorships, right? So they're basically getting paid. They're monetizing. They're cashing in on the adoption. And so it's very curious that these people adopted and took in all the money. So they had enough energy and effort to make it a business deal. They put in they slugged through that, The two of them, darn it, they gave that a shot. They worked hard at making money off of this kid, and now it's a forever home. That's terminology. You know where I'm going with this. That's terminology you use for an animal. When you don't like your little dog anymore, so you give him up. You don't like the the kitten is just not working, so you give them back. Even then, I've got a hard time looking at people after they do something like that. But this couple is then criticized. Just looking at some of the people lashing out, I'm looking at comments here. Imagine adopting a special needs child from China, naming him Huxley, a crime in itself, exploiting him for sponsorship money and monetized videos, and then rehoming him when things get too hard, like he is a pet and not an actual human child. Now, for her part, the mom says, "Do I feel like a failure as a mom? 500%. So when we get insidious, hurtful comments, it really makes it hurt worse." Good. Think about what you're doing to this boy. Think about what you've turned. Again, here's another comment. Extremely depressed, reading about the influencer who raised funds to adopt a son, made this her brand, discovered he has special needs, secretly rehomed him, blocked people asking about him after her followers helped fund the adoption, and put out a video making herself the victim. Wow. So, yeah, you're kind of a disgusting human being, and I'll say that here. That is, then you seek help. Then, do you know what I'm saying? You go to a therapist, you talk to child and family service, you get help. You ask for help. You do something. But that. And the way I look at it, and it's no different than when people say that, oh, well, we got a dog, but we're going to take him back because he's just not working in our house. I actually ended a friendship with somebody who, first, she didn't like children to begin with, and then got a dog, and then said, a week later, we're pregnant, and, we're going to get rid of the dog, when the baby comes. I ended that friendship because I just said, this is not something that you just throw away. Now, again, I sort of humanize pets where I would go and say, think about how the dog feels, right? Think about how the dog feels about being thrown away. This is a child who can articulate and express feelings and, maybe will understand a little bit more than a dog. Again, at his age, he's still fairly young. That's why I'm saying that. Is that, these people who you've known for 3 years, I know when I go and take my dog to the vet, I'm just gone for a few hours. And when he comes and sees me, he's very excited that, oh, yes, thankfully you came back to get me. You're everything to me. And that's how a 3, 4, 5-year-old child looks at their parents, don't they? I don't have kids. I've got dogs. But so these YouTube stars that rehome, to even use that term, rehome their child. And so, when I see these pictures of the boy, such a cute boy, really adorable, and you just see the look and the smiles on his face of the pictures of him with his, well, I guess former mom now. Isn't that what you would call her? Bitch, I would call her. But, you're a disgusting human being. You really are. You can cry and make yourself the victim, just like that one person said. And now, again, it's one thing to jump on these people and say, well, that's not fair. They did the right thing. They were being responsible. If they can't handle it, no, then you don't do it. You just don't do it. You're scum. You're trash. End of story. We'll be right back.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. I have to tell you how the show works. So we got a new episode every Friday, and sometimes during the week, if we're going to have some stories in the news that we'll talk about, or just something that might happen in my life, we jot it down, make a note. And by Thursday evening, with all of these stories that sort of were unfolding and developing, everything that we were going to talk about, like that whole getting old thing that I was going to mention, we don't even have time for. All right? It's not that I forgot. We don't have time. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Thanks so much for subscribing, tuning in week over week, and email me live at jbonair.com. Would love to hear your thoughts on everything we talked about this week. I will talk to you next Friday. Bye for now, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.